Welcome to the podcast. We do recover with Jared Miller, your host.
And I'm Dr. Terry Sellers, your co-host.
This is a podcast about recovery from addiction.
We want to talk about what successful recovery can look like.
Brought to you by Diamond Detox, Wasatch Crest, Team Recovery, Rise Up Subs, and the Hilton Garden Inn.
Welcome back to episode Welcome to episode 164, everybody. We're just getting this thing started. Today I have an inspirational couple here with me, Travis and Nancy Whittaker. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for making your way down from, you guys are up in Davis County, right?
Our facility is, we actually live in Harriman.
Okay.
Yeah,
But still
facilities up in,
ways, yeah.
facilities up in Kaysville.
For those people outside of Utah, you live in northern Utah. We are recording in southern Utah. We'll keep it real simple, but it's about a 4.5 hour drive.
Everything north of I-70 is Salt Lake.
Okay. So now that we're all geographically confused here, right? I appreciate you guys making the journey down to southern Utah is what I'm getting at. So
Of course. Thanks for having us.
yeah, of course. So Travis and Nancy are coming on the episode today because they have a pretty cool dynamic. Travis is celebrating 16 years in recovery. Congratulations, Travis.
Thank you.
And Nancy has put up with his chaos and his craziness, even through active addiction and becoming a business owner and all the stuff. Is that pretty accurate, Nancy?
Mostly, yeah. I mean, we were separated for a couple years, a signature away from divorce. So there was a time that we were not so great, but
I love it. And there sets the hook, right? We call that the hook.
But I was sober. I was sober then, though.
sober. But
Yeah.
there was some still
Gotcha.
issues going on. Yeah.
Beautiful. Now that the hook's been set, we're going to get back to all of that, right? Right after a sponsorship mention. This podcast wouldn't be possible without our amazing sponsors. We want to give them some acknowledgement. Episode 164 is brought to us by Diamond Detox. Diamond Detox let Diamond Detox be your first step on your path to hope, help, and healing. Call their toll-free and confidential number, 385-988-5332, or visit their website, diamonddetox.com. Appreciate them sponsoring this podcast. We also have another sponsor for episode 164, part 1, which is going to be Team Recovery. Team Recovery builds custom apps for all types of treatment providers, boosting admissions and referrals, increase client retention, and tracking post-treatment outcomes. Learn more at teamrecovery.io or call them at 866-824-2281. We appreciate both of them sponsoring this podcast. So a couple questions right off the bat. Diamond Detox is one of our sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
You're the owner and with Diamond Recovery.
Diamond Recovery Centers,
Talk to me about relationship there, difference.
So we bought the program about 2 years and almost 5 months ago.
Okay.
So Jordan owned Diamond Tree Recovery, and he owned Diamond Detox, and so he kept the Diamond Detox, and then we rebranded to Diamond, Recovery Center. It was a 12-bed co-ed facility at the time, and then we added 4 more beds, and then made it all male at the main house, and then bought the house next door and made 8 beds female facility, and changed it to gender specific, and changed the programming to be more mental health driven besides the substance abuse, and then went in-house billing and changed the staff and changed a lot of the modalities. And I'll tell you what, it's just, being really family driven, right?
Yeah.
So the moment you walk through the door, not only do you have, me as the CEO and, an owner, but you have my wife that's doing the HR and payroll and in-house billing and CARF, and you have our son there that's running the men's house, and you have Ann, one of our amazing employees there, and you have Amber, admissions director there, our amazing chef. It's just, it's that family feel.
I love it.
And I think at least 95% of the staff is in recovery from something. So, if a client feels down about something, there's somebody always they can talk to.
I love that.
And they can connect with them.
The reason I bring that up is it's just kind of cool how, like, this whole treatment, what do I want to call it, environment here in Utah, it's all pretty interrelated. It's all pretty interconnected.
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, I'm sure you and Jordan have a good relationship because of, the interplay and working together. I'm sure you use him as a detox referral, and I'm sure he refers, clients to you guys. And it's just kind of cool how all of that, before I did like the marketing and admissions piece, I kind of had this, like, we're all trying to do our thing. We all, fly our flag. And what I've kind of learned is it's not that at all. Like, people are networking and working together and helping each other out, and all for, the benefit of people helping people. So that's awesome. And then my next question, it's a sponsorship question.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a team recovery app?
We did at one point.
Okay.
But we had another avenue that we decided to go. That's the thing. So I've been in this business for 12 years, and I've seen a lot of success in other avenues, that I've kind of brought into this that I've wanted to do. I know everybody in the industry on the West Coast, and I'm grateful for that, right? And I've kind of developed my own brand, if that makes sense.
Got you.
And it's just working for us.
So kind of like the billing, you just kind of took that in-house.
Yeah. I've seen a need of what we needed to do, and I wanted to have a grasp on everything that we're doing.
For sure.
We like the control of like being in charge of everything in our business instead of like having
outsourcing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Elsewhere. Yeah. Because nobody cares about your business like you do, right?
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And in the, spirit of showing our sponsor some love.
Yes.
Just, wanted to mention them and see kind of.
And they're all great
Yeah,
people.
we loved them, yeah.
I know them all, and they're all great people. And you know what? And I think there's certain things that work for certain businesses, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And there's certain things that, and I've tried everything in this business. I've tried different apps and different CRMs and different other things, and I'm a little old school in certain ways that I do things, right? And so I just kind of stick to what works for me. And
Gotcha.
so that's,
I imagine if I was a business owner, I'm sure would be the same way. I would definitely want to be very hands-on and just making sure that, all 8 cylinders are firing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And at the same time, I've heard a lot of really good things about the team recovery app. And, like I was thinking back to when I did clinical work, we would have kind of you talk about old school, we'd have the clients like fill out on papers, like the weekly check-ins for their post-acute withdrawal symptoms, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too much into it, but dude, the other day I was out golfing with some of the guys from Renaissance, and they're kind of a break off of Team Recovery who does the app. And we were talking about that, and he's like, oh, dude, we just have our clients do it right here. And he like showed me, and I'm like, it's 2025, man.
Yeah.
We can do stuff different these days, which is really cool. So
I'm a little technically challenged as well.
Yeah.
I can be that way for sure. For sure. Cool. Well, I appreciate you guys showing them some love with me and giving us a
course.
chance to chat about them. Man, this is cool. I love this dynamic because this podcast, we do stories of recovery, we do topics, we do some information education. Today, we have a really cool opportunity that the two of you have been through this thing, which is very rare, from start to finish. And I would say not only survived it, but are thriving in it. And what is it, Jared? It is addiction, right? That's kind of the topic that we talk about, recovering from addiction. So I don't know. Do you guys just want to I have some questions for you. Do you want to kind of paint the picture of like, when did you guys first meet? Let's just first get the relationship piece of like, where does this love story begin?
Do you want me to?
Absolutely.
Go for it. Well, let me jump in real quick. So when we talk about celebrating 16 years of recovery, so I always like to say it's our celebration day because it's a family disease, right?
No question.
So it's just not me celebrating; it's our family celebrating because I did a lot of damage in my disease, right? So our celebration date is 4/20, and everyone laughs about it, right? So it's this Sunday, which happens to be Easter.
Wow.
Our family will celebrate, 16 years of sobriety, and this year we'll be married 30 years, which is just absolutely,
More than 30.
31?
31.
31?
Remember,
You're in trouble.
She's put up with me for 31 years. Can you believe that?
of marriage, yeah.
That's just
I knew you
that's
before that,
It's
too. But
unbelievable.
So let's get that. Nancy, I'm going to scoot the
Unbelievable.
microphone
Oh,
a
sorry.
tiny bit closer towards you, but let's get that. You said 31 years of marriage, but more than that. Where does that story start?
So we both worked for Morris Airlines. It was a regional airline back in the early 90s here in Utah.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Here in St. George.
Well, they flew to St. George, yeah, but we
okay.
worked for them in Salt Lake at their reservation center. And I was friends with a guy that knew him or was friends with him. And he asked me, he told me that Travis had asked him to ask me to go to his New Year's Eve party. So that would have been New Year's Eve 1993.
So you asked a friend to ask her.
My memory's not that good anymore.
Yeah, he did. And I said, "Who is he?" And he explained him to me. I'm like, "Oh, I know who he is," because he used to always like stare at me. Yeah. So I got the
I mean, look at
I
her.
got the vibes.
I love it.
Anyway, so I agreed that we'd stop by this party, and he wasn't very nice that night. So, I mean, we were young. He was into partying, dumped beer on my head. I swore I would
Not
never
really-
go back.
Not really partying. I just drank on weekends.
Drink. Okay, whatever.
I just drank on weekends.
Were you guys like early adult stuff, right?
Yeah, like 21, I think.
Yeah.
I would just turn 21. And
My
he's
life-
a year older than me, so he was 22.
My life was surrounded by basketball. Was my
Yeah, basketball and partying on the weekends.
yeah.
Basketball
They
and
had
beers
a-
on the weekend.
Yeah, they lived next door to the bishop, and they'd have a party, and they were friends with a cop, and he'd park his cop car on the lawn with the lights on, so it looked like the cops were already there, so nobody bothered to call.
You got to be smart about the partying in those days.
Yeah, but anyway, it was fun. But yeah, he was kind of wasn't my thing. After that, I was like, why? He dumped beer on my head, so I wouldn't leave, and I was like, yeah, that's not cool.
It was.
But his friend liked my friend, and so he got her number, and then she wanted me to go back. She begged me to go back to their house like the very next day, I think, so she could hook up with his friend or meet his friend more or whatever, hang out. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go. And then he was a jerk that night too, because he was hungover and wouldn't
was
share
trying-
his pizza with anyone. And
I was trying to play the bad guy because they're the ones that got the girls.
so I wasn't too impressed. But later that night we were watching Indecent Proposal, and we were both making fun of the same parts and like laughing at the same awkward kind of parts that I was like, oh, we're like getting each other like the humor and stuff. Like so we connected over this stupid movie, and the rest is history. We were engaged like 6 weeks later.
I mean, I don't want to defend Travis, but there's a couple things that us men do, right? Number one, we want to play it cool.
Yeah.
And what that looks like is basically a duck gliding across water. You know, it looks real smooth. We think it looks real smooth, but you're kicking like heck underneath, right? And secondly, you know, I'm sure Travis can defend himself here, and we'll get it in a minute. But also, when we're intoxicated, we don't always make the best decisions, right?
Yeah.
So what part of your intoxicated brain, Travis, now that you're in the hot seat, thought it would be, you know how I'm going to get this girl? I'm going to pour beer on her head.
So she had mentioned that she was leaving for another party. Okay. And I had to stop that. Right. But I mean, there's no excuse for doing that. And I've apologized for 31 years.
For sure. Yeah.
But I think it was, so my whole life, it was like all the girls just wanted to be my friend. Right. And so I was like,
You got friend zoned a lot.
I got friend zoned a lot. So I was like, I was going to be the bad guy one time and see what happens. And it worked. I got married to her. Right. And it worked.
You weren't the bad guy very long, though. It was just those 2 nights.
It was 2
Yeah,
nights. Come
it
on.
was 2 nights.
It was 2 nights.
Once he showed you the inners,
Yes.
who he really
Yeah.
was, you're like, okay, his facade's over.
Yeah. And he was so funny. That's one of the things.
And I won.
Yeah. He's got a great sense of humor.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Humor has been big in our relationship for a long time.
That's good. That
She's
keeps
got a whole list she says, but she never remembers to write it down.
Travis-isms. Yeah.
Travis-isms.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Well, cool. Okay, so this is a podcast about recovery from addiction, right? And as we talked about before, Travis is coming up this Sunday, Easter Sunday, on 16 years. Not just him, but his whole family. I loved how you said that. So as you kind of look back, this is specifically for you, Travis. This question specifically for you. As you look back, what was your rock bottom? Like, what finally made you decide to make some kind of change in your life 16 years ago this Sunday? And give me a little bit of background. Like, what were you struggling with? Was it just like, were you trying to cope with something emotional, or was it just the partying never stopped? What did that really look like 16 years ago?
So, the funny part is that my mom was an alcoholic, and I when we got married, I didn't drink very much. I didn't care for it that much. I think it was just when I did, it was one of those things, sign of the times. I lived with a bunch of dudes. We drank once in a while, played a lot of basketball. We got married. I hurt my back playing basketball, right? And I got insurance for the first time. And I went to the doctor, and he put me on Loratab. Had x-rays, MRI done, and I had a fracture in my back. And he's like, well, here, let's give you some Loratab and kind of deal with the pain. And then as you know how that goes, it's okay, 2's not enough. And let's start with the 4 a day.
Right.
And then let's move you up to Percocet. Now Percocet's not enough. And then I think it's about 95 or 96 when Oxycontin came out. I remember the way he brought it to my attention, because I said, look, this stuff's not lasting long enough. And he said, well, there's this medication that was created for cancer patients that's like time release, and I think it would be great for you. And I remember telling Nancy, I'm like, this stuff's amazing, because I can play basketball, I have that energy back, and I'm not having the pain.
Sure, you didn't have limitations. Like I get it.
Yeah.
For sure. And the other thing I just want to say too, just because I can relate to this, is when we're young and we don't really understand the power of a medication like an opioid, we don't know to put barriers or boundaries in place, right? And sometimes I think like there's a place for medication management with chronic pain. And when we're young and we are naive and we think that nothing can hurt us, we don't recognize that if we're starting to take more than we should have, more than's prescribed, that is leading to an addiction. Is that safe to say? Like, I'm sure you didn't wake up one day and look at your bottle of Percocets and be like, one day this is going to turn into Oxycontin, and I'm right. Like,
I had no idea.
We didn't even know what opioids were.
No,
I don't think, just that it was pain medication prescribed by a doctor. Like,
yes.
No, because the whole family was all alcoholics, right? So I thought, well, as long as I avoid that, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Later down the road, I found out my real dad, their whole side of the family were opioid addicts. But I mean, it turned into, 15 years of, heavy addiction, and I was up to 400 milligrams a day, and I'm buying them off the streets, and I'm going to 12 different doctors, and, it led into lying and stealing and wrecking cars and losing jobs arrested and
benzos
and,
Ambien, all
and,
sorts of different medications.
Running down the street in my underwear with cops chasing me. And I mean, just absolute
unmanageable.
It was just, I mean,
life got real unmanageable.
I mean, it's something
stealing money.
It's like Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, I stole my son's birthday money. Yeah. I pawned my wife's wedding ring. I mean, for money. I mean, title loans, what, 300%, just the craziest stuff that you would never think you would do to get that drug, because you feel like when you are, and this is for the individuals out there that are just like telling their loved ones to stop, you can't just do that part alone. That's why you have to get help. You got to go through, whether it's Diamond Detox to get those, you have to get off of it safely and then get the help, to deal with the mental health side of the drugs.
For sure.
Because, it's not just quit and you're fine, because it's right there all the time like this.
Yeah. And so, like, with this, it's a kind of a different dynamic of a podcast. I appreciate you kind of setting the scene of what that looked like before. What was the thing that really kind of brought you to a point where you were like, I'm done with this, and you wanted to make a change?
So, in my addiction, I had a lot of childhood trauma, right? So in my thought process, I had an out-of-body experience in a car wreck in 2009. We would get in fights. Cops would be at our house all the time. And I came home one night, and, the pharmacy messed up and gave me 2 bottles of 120 Xanax, and I took them all within like 4 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was. I was out of it, and I got behind the wheel of a car, took off to Wendover, rolled my car several times. Jaws of Life took me out, took me to the Tooele Hospital, and I looked down at myself. And I used to think when people were talking about out-of-body experiences, I would just laugh, like I didn't believe in that stuff.
Sure.
Looking down at myself, I look over, there's a long-haired dude looking down with me, right? They're ripping my shirt off. They have paddles out. And he goes, "Are you done?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Are you done? Because I'm tired. You got 3, I'm going to give you 3 choices. You know, 1, you're going to choose recovery right now, or I'm going to let you die, or obviously you're going to go to prison because you're going to kill somebody. Like, we've got to figure this out because what you're doing is not working. You're destroying everything around you. All you're doing is hurting yourself and your family and your friends." And I chose recovery. You know, it's just because it was my guardian angel.
I was going to say, what was that
Yeah.
long-haired guy to you?
Yeah,
Guardian
it
angel?
was that. It was almost. I post this picture all the time of this guy looking down like this.
The picture he posts is
You
of
know?
Jesus, but like
Yeah.
reaching a hand down to somebody who's drowning. That's
Yeah.
what his experience
Totally get it.
was. Yeah.
And it's one of those things that that's all I remember about that. And the car was demolished, and I walked away without even a scratch. And I'm thankful I didn't have anybody in the car. I'm thankful I didn't kill anybody. That doesn't happen for most
Also,
people.
he didn't go through any withdrawals. So for him, I totally believe it was divine intervention.
That's an incredible story. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I believe you. I've had a near-death experience myself, and I've only shared it like one time because it's a very intimate and vulnerable experience, right? And,
Yeah.
and again, you know, some people can be brutal and try to discredit it or basically laugh it off or whatever, and so I appreciate you being willing to share that. Yeah, definitely. And so that was kind of like inspirational or higher power moment. Your spiritual awakening is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah,
Got
it
ya.
was one of those things where I was like at my, I went home. Cops were there waiting for me. My best friend came and got me. Nancy had been trying and was reaching out to get me into treatment because we didn't really know in 2009 treatment was available. You know,
He'd been through like detox, like at the hospital, like
Several
several times, but I didn't know. We didn't know anything about addiction. I had no clue.
Got you. So what kept you holding on, Nancy? What kept you kind of? And I know you talked about you guys were separated, but what really kept you holding on to the relationship during the unmanageability and the chaos with Travis's addiction?
Gosh, I always tell people it's like you're a frog in a pot of water. Like, you know, that old analogy, like you don't really know what's happening until you're boiling and you're going to die. Like, that's how our lives became. And that's how I became. Like, I didn't understand what was happening. I remember he told me once in the kitchen, he came home from work or something and said, "I got to tell you something." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm addicted to these pills." And I was like, "What do you mean you're addicted? They're prescribed to you like by a doctor. Just stop taking them." Like, what are you talking about?
Again, that naivety.
Yeah, we had no clue. And he's like, "No, this is serious. Like, I need to go to like a hospital to get." So, but I thought, "Oh, okay. Well, he'll go to detox. He'll come home. Everything will be fine." That's not how it works, but
And the thing I hate about that question is it almost insinuates like you shouldn't have,
yeah.
right? And so one of the things that we make a vow when we get married is for better or for worse,
Yeah.
you know? And again, not to make this about me, but my first marriage didn't last my addiction, you know?
Yeah.
And so I want to first of all acknowledge, like, I'm not trying to be like, well, why didn't you just leave, right? Like, it's cool
Yeah.
that you stuck in there, and it's cool that you loved him through the hard times, because again, we do make a vow when we get married for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is today you're showing proof that it is possible to pull somebody out of a tailspin in life.
For sure. And that's, I think, the frustrating part for families of or loved ones of addict, anyone who loves an addict, is you see these like little, like I would see the glimmer, like, or my Travis would be there, but then they disappear again.
Right.
So it's like those little glimmers gave me hope. When he'd go to detox, it gave me hope. Like, there was just all these little things that gave me hope until I couldn't. Like, my life was being destroyed. I was sick. I lost like 30 pounds in a couple months. I couldn't eat anymore. Like, I was so mentally ill. My poor kids were suffering. I had 3 little kids. I was like, I just can't do it anymore. Like, as much as I love him and I want him to be successful.
Well said. We're going to get back to that in part 2 of this episode, but you guys are hitting right on the veins that I was hoping you'd travel down. So buckle up, everybody. We will be back right after this little mention from our sponsors.
You are listening to We Do Recover with Jared Miller and co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. We'll be right back after this short break with more of We Do Recover with Jared Miller. Brought to you by Diamond Detox, Wasatch Crest, Team Recovery, Rise Up Subs, and the Hilton Garden Inn.
The team at Diamond Detox is compassionate, helpful, and trained to support every step of the healing journey. Your loved one's path to a healthier, happier life starts with a free and easy 20 to 30-minute assessment over the phone or a few questions submitted online on the Diamond Detox website. Assessments and admissions occur 7 days a week, depending on availability. To begin the path to recovery, visit DiamondDetox.com or call 385-988-5332.
Hi, my name is Jim Huffman. I'm the founder and CEO of Wasatch Crest Treatment Services. We're located in Heber City, Utah, amongst the beautiful Wasatch Mountains. We offer a full continuum of care, and what that means is that, we can support our clients and their families from day one all the way through their entire recovery journey. Our goal here at Wasatch Crest is for this to be your last time in treatment and the beginning of a life in recovery that will bring you joy and fulfillment and a sense of healing to you and your family and to those who love you.
To learn more about Wasatch Crest, call me, Jared, directly at 385-644-1500 and check out the website at wasatchcresttreatment.com.
So we've made developing an app very affordable, and we do it really quick.
We are the only mobile app development company in the behavioral health space and the only constant throughout a client's entire life cycle, from pre-admissions to 10 years sober.
Now with new technology, we can develop a high-quality app in a fraction of the time. Now that we've done this with hundreds of partners all across the country, we can get this done within 6 weeks. An hour of your time is all it requires per week over that time, and just like that, your app's done. Developed on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store.
On the front end, we know we can help increase conversions. While the patient's with you, we work on retention and engagement, and moving on into post-treatment, we collect a lot of readmissions and referrals.
Get your agency an app. Give them a call at 866-824-2281 or visit their website at teamrecovery.io.
We welcome you back to We Do Recover with Jared Miller, co-hosted by Dr. Terry Sellers. Brought to you by Diamond Detox, Wasatch Crest, Team Recovery, Rise Up Subs, and the Hilton Garden Inn. And now with part 2 of our podcast, Jared Miller and Dr. Terry Sellers.
Welcome back, everybody. Dr. Sellers was going to be here, but his niece is getting married. She got married today. And so he's helping set up for the whatever's after it.
The
Nancy, help me
reception.
out here. Thank you. The reception piece, right? And so, that's why, right? That's why we get clean, is to show up for our families. So I hope he's having a good time. He did want to mention to both of you that he would have loved to have been here. Duty calls, though, right? I think what really happened is his wife was like, "Oh, heck no, you're not going to do no podcast while we're setting up chairs. You're going to go set up some chairs, boy." Right?
Oh, exactly.
So welcome back to episode 164. We appreciate the sponsorship mentions. 164, like you guys saw, is brought to us by a couple different sponsors here we want to show some love to. Wasatch Crest. Wasatch Crest is a leading provider of addiction and mental health treatment nestled in the scenic mountains of Park City and Heber, Utah. Their 4 mountainside facilities offer a full continuum of care. What does that mean? That means residential, day treatment, in-person and virtual IOP, transitional living, adventure therapy, family support, and an alumni aftercare program. What really sets Wasatch Crest apart is their elevated treatment approach. They have separate men's and women's programs that provide personal, tailored care to each client. Backed by a passionate staff of 50 professionals, many in recovery themselves, that seems to be a trend, Wasatch Crest believes everyone who walks through their doors has a chance to build lasting recovery and a life worth protecting. If you're interested, give them a call. Give me a call. You can reach me at 385-644-1500 or visit their their website, wasatchcresttreatment.com, to learn more. I got to slow down. I'm just machine gunning them today. Episode 164, Part 2 is also brought to us by Rise Up Supplements. Rise Up Supplements is a nootropic supplement line aimed at optimizing brain function and supporting mental health. They have 2 powerful blends. Mindful Mood helps decrease anxiety and enhance mood, while Mind Shift helps increase focus and optimize brain function. If you're interested in some premium nootropics, place your order at riseupsups.com. That's RISEUPS.com. Punch in podcast 20 in all caps to save yourself 20% off your entire purchase. Okay. Thanks, guys. We're back.
We're back. I like it.
Nice.
We really appreciate all of our sponsors. Got to show love to them. Keep this thing rolling. Somebody's got to pay Sean Denovan over there, right?
Damn right.
So, and I appreciate it. Leading right up to the break, though, Nancy, you were talking about just seeing these little like glimpses of hope and these gems, right? And let's maybe, don't let me put words in your mouth here, and feel free to cut me off and pick it up where you want to, but we love this person.
Yeah.
We just don't love their behaviors.
Right.
And the decisions that they're making. What a lot of people don't understand is they're not really making decisions. That frontal cortex is shut down. They're not logically making these decisions. They're operating from caveman brain, who's just like, me want, me need, me get.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always tell people in my head, there are 2 Travises. Like even during his addiction, there were 2 Travises. There was like my Travis and then this evil guy that I didn't know. So like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like literally like I can look at pictures and tell you active addiction.
Wow.
Like he looks different. He was just a totally different person.
Well, there's pictures of my color of my eyes and the color of my hair changed.
Yeah. I think it was just a darkness. Yeah, there was a darkness. And I mean, I think we see that every day in our treatment facility too. They come in very dark. Like you can see their energy almost.
Very heavy.
Yeah, very heavy. And then I always say, I love it when I'm like gone for a couple weeks and I come back and I see someone who you can see the light in their eyes again, and you can just tell their whole aura has changed. And I saw that in him in treatment too. He went to the Ark of Little Cottonwood. 3 weeks after his out-of-body experience, we finally got him secured in treatment. There was a little bit of a wait, which was probably good. He didn't go through withdrawals, but he had taken so much Xanax that he was a little like loopy for a long time. So it's probably good that he had that time to and he was staying with our friends, because at that point so this is the first time I was set on, we're done. But he got into treatment, and I agreed to go to family day. They had a family day every Thursday. You'd go all day. And
God bless you.
yeah, I'd go up and support him. And anyway, one day I walked in and I was like, oh my gosh, there he is. That's the guy I married. That's Travis again. So I was super excited. That gave me hope. So he completed 95 days of inpatient treatment. Yeah.
95 days.
That's why I always tell the guys and girls when they come into treatment, I'm like, this isn't a
Don't
30.
rush.
It's not a 30-day fix. Just slow down.
It's not even a 95
No.
day fix.
And you have to have an aftercare plan and take your time. It takes years to get in. I mean, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, we reconciled after treatment. We didn't have a solid aftercare plan for him or me.
Yeah.
Honestly. So we fell back into bad behaviors. I was enabling. He was not using, but like finding other things to fill that void that drugs used to fill. So like shopping, gambling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like
Maybe
things
food.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not healthy things, self-destructing,
Right. Right.
Still not believing he was worthy of a better life. So we fell back into those old behaviors, and it was probably 3 years after treatment. Again, I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. Can't.
Got you. But he was still
So he was still sober.
He was just sick still.
He was like a dry drunk.
We talked about that today at golf. Like you can be sober and still be very sick.
Yeah, very sick.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and so was I. Like I didn't realize that I was so sick. Like I tell family members that all the time. Like you don't know it, but yeah,
Right.
You're just as sick.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you don't get help and like together, there's no hope.
Right.
Yeah.
It can't be just one-sided. A
Yeah.
relationship is never just one-sided.
Yeah.
So healing and fixing a loved one in active addiction is going to be a family or a together thing. Absolutely. Well said. Like, and people don't always understand that. I hear all the time, like, oh, they just need to go get better. And it's like, if you've been, I don't want to say dealing with, if you have been loving this person through their active addiction, you've got some stuff that you for sure need to talk about and get healed yourself, for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
I love that you spoke to that.
Yeah.
I also own an intervention business. And so when I do interventions, before I'll take the intervention on, I'll tell the family, we have to schedule and get you help. So when your loved one accepts the help, they go off and do treatment. You have to get set up with a private therapist, because once they come home, you have to be doing the work. Because when you both collide, if you're not well, then it just right back into the same environment.
Yep. You're just going to, if they go and get help, come back and they've changed, but you haven't, you're still on day one page.
Just like me doing 95 days and coming back home, there wasn't support for Nancy other than she took time off work, because I had done so many things and lied, made her think that all these things that, she questioned me about. I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let me just pin that right there, because working in this field, one of the things when it comes to relationships that I really have to work with clients in an outpatient setting on is rebuilding trust. What did that look like for you in the process of your guys' relationship and getting to the point where you're at today? Like, specifically with your wife, Nancy, here, what did that look like?
First thing I had to do is everything I lied about, I had to tell her that you were right.
So get honest.
Which she already knew, but I think me coming forward and saying, you were right about me pawning your wedding ring. You were right about me doing all these things. And I think that we think we're so good at lying, right? When we're not. But it also, I think, made her feel good, just me coming forward and her, and then her going, I already knew all that. Mm-hmm. And then you learn in your recovery process, when you tell the truth, there's nothing to remember because it's the truth.
Right.
Right?
You don't got to recall a lie.
Yeah,
You don't got to recall a story. Right.
But when you're lying and then that they keep asking you, then you have to go, wait, what did I say?
Yeah.
Right? What did I lie about?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because then you're starting to make them feel crazy, and then you get, you start getting yelling because you're defensive.
Right. You do the old gaslighting act.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
Well,
so getting honest. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and I thought I was almost like a mom to him. Like, I wasn't even a wife. Like, I was his caretaker, which is...
I'm sure there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah. So, like, him stepping up and doing, like we always say the next right thing. Like, just those little things. It doesn't have to be like a monumental thing where I learned that I could trust him again, and I wasn't back in that role of just a caretaker. We were like partners.
I mean, I stole my son, I think he was 12. I stole his birthday money to buy drugs and made him think he was crazy.
Right. Like he misplaced it? Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I stole it.
Yeah.
Right?
So you had to get honest.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I
Very
hear is like,
honest,
the gaslighting's over. Take accountability. Take responsibility. Okay, for sure. Anything like moving forward from that, though, like, I use my mom as an example. And I've shared this 1,000 times on this podcast, but like, I gave her PTSD because she'd be like, Jared, where are you going? I'm going to the gym. Are you really going to the gym though? And that used to set me off. And then once I started realizing making amends and being honest and working a program, when I started working a program, it was like, yeah, Mom, I recognize you don't trust me because I've lied to you about this before. What can I do to help you feel good about it? Can I take a screenshot of me at the gym? Do you want, right? There's a cool thing where I can drop a pin showing you my location. How can I rebuild the trust? Anything, what did that look like between the two of you?
So this has really been my only family, right? Because my mom, again, was an alcoholic. So I came from very unstable upbringing.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of childhood trauma. My real dad died of a drug overdose, and my mom had been married, I think, 5 times.
5. I'm not
So,
sure.
so it was really, like, again, like you're saying, building the trust with her, and that's what really mattered. So something I worked really hard on in treatment, and I tell clients this now, I call it the 3-second rule. Because for so long, my brain was trained to tell you what you wanted to hear, right?
For sure.
Because I wanted to get what I wanted to get.
It's part of the game, part of the manipulation.
Exactly. I was a compulsive liar. So I would say something, and it would be incorrect, and I'd say, I'm sorry, I just lied. That wasn't right.
Nice.
So I would get to the point where I would correct myself, and then I would say, here's the truth. So I would do that, and I think constantly doing that over the years while my brain was healing, because I believe it's still, I don't know with fentanyl and carfentanil, if it's still 5 years the brains are healing. I don't know if it's longer or not. You might know more about that. But I would take my time and just go, I'm sorry, I just lied. To where, until I would get to telling the truth more and more often. And I think as I did that, she would recognize I was telling the truth. And I think that was baby steps, right? And then, when we got back together, we really jumped in and did some therapy together with one of the best therapists in the country that had been sober 40 years.
So we were separated the second time was 2.5 years. That's when I had divorce papers drawn up. He had signed them. I was supposed to sign them and file, and we were done. I think that break is really what, because we both had to live independently.
Okay.
And I remember when he first left, he would text me like pages and pages about how sorry he was and how much he loved me. And I just had to ignore him. I totally cut him off, like no contact for a long time. And then he got a job working at Steps.
I did.
As a tech. And that's when I started noticing like some changed behaviors. I'm like, okay, he's working. He's giving me some money for the kids, like child support. Like, okay. But then I had all these walls built up still, right? Like I'm protecting myself.
Sure.
So, okay, maybe he's changing, but I'm still going to protect myself because I've seen this song and dance before. But it took a long time. So like the 2.5 years that he's showing up for our kids. He's doing the child support. He's being honest with me, like not pushing me about getting back together like he was at the beginning. And then, our son was struggling, and I had 2 deaths in my family within a couple months. My mom died, and then my brother killed himself. And I was so mournful of their deaths. And then I was like, I'm mourning Travis, and he's still alive,
Oh, wow.
I'm mourning that relationship, and he's still here, and he's really doing better. Like I can see he's doing better, but I have this ego and these walls. And anyway, that was an eye opener for me. Like I tell people, it's like a lightning bolt hit me. Like when I was done. Like a lightning bolt just went through me. And then another lightning bolt hit me, and it's like, give this guy another chance. So
you
wasn't
came to that perspective on your own, or were you working with a therapist?
I wasn't working with a therapist then, but I had enough wherewithal to
pretty incredible self-reflection there.
Recognize what was going on with me and that it was hurting my kids, that I didn't have a good relationship with him. So at first I was like, I'll just have a relationship because of my kids. I need to be friends, co-parent. They need to know that it's okay. Like my son hated him, didn't talk to him for that whole time. I think that we were separated. So I was like, he needs to know it's okay that he loves his dad. He doesn't have to be on my side, so I recognize these things, and that's why at first we were like, okay, let's go to counseling. Let's figure out how we can co-parent for our kids, and then that led into us reconciling. But it wasn't like just jumping in and, oh yeah, we're back together, and we did a lot of work to get to that point.
Yeah.
So we didn't file the divorce papers, and then after a while he moved back in, and
we snuck around for a little bit.
we did sneak around. Yeah, we wanted to make sure it was before.
We didn't want the kids to.
Yeah, our kids,
So we kept it quiet for.
We dated
low key.
Yeah, we dated for.
I love that. We dated because you kind of had. It sounds like you kind of had to find out where each other was at for a second.
Yeah.
Well, I own the trauma and everything that I brought to our kids. Right. I did that, and so because my mom did that to me, right. So I think when you talk about healing, like it's my job to make sure that the trauma doesn't get passed down to our grandkids, right?
Right.
So that generational trauma is a real thing.
Oh, for sure.
It's a real thing. And we get the opportunity to stop that. So when we started doing some serious work, you know, I told her, she's like, let's just tell him, like, let's not do that yet. Because, you know, our son, like he said, had some stuff to work through, you know. And I remember when we did some one-on-one work.
With him.
You know, when I did some one-on-one work with him, I remember, and this is important for families to hear, he asked me if my addiction was his fault.
Oh, wow.
So any family members out there, it's very important that you tell your children that it is not their fault.
Yeah. Yeah. Somehow he internalized your struggles as it made it his own.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, my choices were not anybody's fault, you know, and even, you know, my parents, my mom, you know, the trauma that they passed on to me, you know, I can pass some blame there, but as an adult, it's my responsibility to heal it. Right.
For sure.
But they didn't set me up to know how to even do that. But when I got older, I learned how to deal with that and, you know, talk about it. And we talk about men and mental health. And, you know, you have to have the tools to know how to work through it and talk about it. A lot of times it's just stuck there and you don't even know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that we're working, our family's a work in progress. It always will be.
Always. The law of impermanence, right? Nothing's ever going to stay the same.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Nothing is ever going to stay the same. Yeah.
And our kids have all had issues or fallout from addiction, and we work through those, or we try to, but we're not perfect, and we're definitely not perfect. Are we a perfect couple? No. Like, we still have fights. We still get mad at each other. But relationships are hard. Like, that's just how it is. Like, we work through it. We're committed to working through our issues instead of giving up. So,
but what Nancy does very well, and the therapist did a great job of, was to let her know that you can't, you know, whatever fight you do or whatever happens, you can't ever have it be about the past. Like, you can never throw me under the bus over the past.
like if
Right.
I'm forgiving him for his past transgressions, I've forgiven those, and those aren't something that you can present
Right.
down the line.
You don't
Yeah.
put it in the old toolbox and bring
Yeah.
it out when
Yep.
you're looking to knock somebody down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can talk about his addiction now. Like, it's not, I mean, because we're honest about it. Like, he doesn't get defensive. He doesn't feel like it's an attack. We can talk about it. Where before, when it was, I would say, I don't want to say you're healed, I guess, or more healed or more
More
aware,
stable
more
in
stable.
recovery.
Yeah, in recovery. He doesn't feel like I'm attacking him or that I'm trying to throw him under the bus. I'm like, these are facts. That these things happened, and we can talk about them without it, you know, him melting down.
Shame
or,
dies
yeah.
when it's shared in safe spaces.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Shame dies
That's
when
great.
it's shared in safe spaces. And so the fact that you can talk about what happened helps you heal and move on from what happened.
Yeah.
So again, it's been amazing having you guys here on the podcast, because you guys can really paint a picture of maybe a couple are out there struggling, right? What message would you have for that couple who's out there and maybe going through some of the stuff that you guys have gone through? Like, as you take a look back, what are some of the key things that really allowed you guys to be successful here, still married, with a family, have a business like that? That's thriving in my book. Travis, I'll have you go first.
So what's the question? How would you,
Like, what advice would you give somebody who is in the throes
struggling.
of your guys' relationship back in the day, whether it's the active addiction piece or whether it's the, you know, trying to mend everything and rebuild trust piece?
I think the biggest thing is you have to communicate. You have to both be willing to see that there's an issue. I think, like earlier today, if one is drinking and is unable to have that communication with the other one, they're not going to see eye to eye, right? So where is that part that they're both going to go, there's an issue, let's sit down and talk about it and figure this out. So
yeah, sometimes the first step in solving a problem is acknowledging that there's a problem.
Right. So, you know, sometimes those hard boundaries are difficult, but they're very important. So boundaries are everything, and sometimes it starts by kicking somebody out of the house. Boundaries of love are everything, to get somebody on the right track and getting them into detox and getting them safe. Because, if you're not the one that's in active addiction and you're the other one, you can make yourself go, sometimes you have to use the word crazy.
Right.
And you've got to protect yourself. And if you have kids, you have to protect yourself and you have to protect your kids. So like me, Nancy could do everything she could possibly do, but until I'm ready to get help, right?
Yeah.
And see that, okay, I've got a problem. I've got to be willing and wanting to change.
Yeah. You have to experience your own natural consequences for you to be ready to make some kind of change.
Yeah.
Nancy, what advice would you give somebody who's sitting in your spot currently?
So I think what you just said, like the natural consequence, like me trying to save him or rescue, cover up, like lie for him, enable him, like all that stuff, where I thought I could control Travis, I thought I could control addiction. Like it's all a facade. Like there's nothing about another person or a disease that you can control. Like just stop. Like I couldn't love him enough. I couldn't yell at him enough. I couldn't do anything enough to save him. He had to save himself.
You were powerless.
I was powerless, and I had to admit that. Like I let go and let God. Like I there's nothing that I can do.
Sounds like some Al-Anon steps.
Yeah.
And it's also good too for the one who's suffering, not from the addiction, but the loved one, to get a therapist,
For sure.
to get a professional, to go to get, this is what I'm struggling with. Somebody outside the family, because every family knows, they all think they know what to do.
Right.
And a lot of times that just causes issues. You have somebody outside the family that's safe for you to go talk to, that's going to give you some great suggestions on what to do. I always suggest that.
Yeah, well said. And again, contact me. I can be a great resource for you for any of those kind of things, right? Little contact information. I recognize I haven't even given you a ton of time to talk about Diamond Recovery. Travis, for those listening and have caught your vibe and want to work with you and Nancy, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can give us a call at 866-271-9899. Our website is diamondrecoverycenter.com. My personal number is 801-573-4188. And then also I have an intervention services that is livingrecoveryinterventions.com. It's just all about finding, again, what your vibe is, what you're looking for, how we can help you. I'm not a therapist. I am a certified interventionist and a person in long-term recovery. I love what we get to do, and it's about helping people.
Yeah, but most people never even get to a therapist if they don't have a guy like you that has keys to get them into the vehicle, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you guys so much for being willing to come on my
you.
podcast. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll see you guys on the next one, episode 165. Till then, stay sober, stay safe.
Thank you for joining us today on We Do Recover with Jared Miller.
Help us spread our message of hope. Like, comment, and share.
If you have any topics or ideas for future shows, please share that on our Facebook page.
That Facebook page is We Do Recover with Jared Miller. If you or a loved one needs help, please reach out to us. Again, thank you for listening.
Brought to you by Diamond Detox, Wasatch Crest, Team Recovery, Rise Up Subs, and the Hilton Garden Inn. This has been a production from a podcast studio.